Hello everyone. Welcome to Sleepy Time Tales, a channel dedicated to creepy, haunting stories. Before we get started, please like and subscribe and leave a comment, letting us know where you came from and when you watched it. That way, YouTube will continue to show you stories like this. Now, let's get started. The first time I heard about Greywick, the town that sleeps with its eyes open, I thought it was just another urban myth drifting around on forgotten Reddit threads. A bizarre title for an even more bizarre place, but the stories were always the same. Anyone who entered Greywick would feel as if the entire town was watching them, every door, every window, every darkened corner holding its breath as they passed by. My name is Evan Carter, freelance journalist and chronic seeker of ridiculous mysteries. My friends say I chase danger the way other people chase promotions. Maybe they're right, but when I received an anonymous email titled Top 10 Places That Should Not Exist, starting with Greywick, something inside me shifted. The message contained only one sentence. If you enter the town after midnight, you will understand why it never closes its eyes. It felt like bait, dangerous, irresistible bait. So that's how I found myself driving down an empty Louisiana highway at 11:30 at night. The asphalt was cracked, as if the road itself had been abandoned long before the idea of Greywick even existed. My GPS flickered, glitching every few minutes, insisting I was off route, even though there was only one way forward. The forest surrounding the highway pressed close, branches leaning toward the car like skeletal fingers dragging across the roof. I tried opening the window once, just once, but the air that seeped in felt wrong. Too cold, too still, like the breath of someone standing inches from my face. By midnight, the road forked. A rusty sign leaned sideways, barely holding on to its last bolt. The paint had faded to a sickly yellow, but I could still make out the words. Greywick, population unknown. Unknown, I muttered. That's comforting. I turned the wheel toward the town. My headlights seemed to dim instantly, swallowed by an unnatural darkness thick enough to touch as I passed the sign. The radio, despite being turned off, crackled softly. A whisper crawled through the static. Do not look at the windows. I froze. My foot hovered above the brake pedal, but something, curiosity, stupidity, or maybe fate pushed me forward. The first building emerged from the darkness. An old diner, its neon sign flickering with a dull red pulse. It looked abandoned, yet every booth inside was occupied, not by moving people, but by silhouettes, perfectly still, perfectly upright, as if someone had carved them from shadow and placed them there deliberately. I swallowed hard. My hands tightened around the steering wheel. More buildings appeared, houses, shops, a church with a crooked steeple, all dark, all silent, all with windows that reflected nothing, as if they were eyes without pupils. I reminded myself not to look directly at them, but the longer I drove, the more difficult it became. The windows felt alive, watching, waiting. I reached what looked like the town square. A fountain stood at the center, dry and cracked, yet the stone carvings around its base were disturbingly detailed. dozens of faces with wide, unblinking eyes. Suddenly, a figure stepped into the beam of my headlights. A woman, tall, pale, wearing a long nightgown. Her hair hung in tangled strands across her shoulders, and her eyes were wide open, gleaming like glass marbles. She didn't blink, not once. She lifted her arm slowly and pointed at me. Her voice sounded like it came from a place deep underground. "You should not have come here. Evan Carter." My blood froze. She knew my name. Before I could react, every window in town lit up at once, dozens of eyes staring out, glowing faintly in the darkness. The town wasn't asleep. It was waking up, and it was looking at me. The moment the windows of Greywick lit up, I felt the air change. It grew heavier, as if the entire town had inhaled and was holding the breath inside its lungs, waiting for something, waiting for me. The pale woman still stood in the center of the road, her nightgown shifting slightly in the faint breeze, her pupils reflecting my headlights like polished glass. She did not blink, she did not move, she only stared, her arms still raised, her bony finger still pointed directly at my chest. Instinct told me to drive away, to reverse and let the darkness swallow the car and forget that Greywick ever existed. But another part of me, the part that had followed anonymous emails, unsent letters, and whispered rumors for years, urged me to stay. If a town could watch, if its windows could wake, if its silence could breathe, then Greywick was a mystery, unlike any I had encountered. I opened the car door slowly. The hinges groaned, the sound unnaturally loud in the stillness. The woman's head tilted slightly, her neck cracking as if it had forgotten how to move. Her eyes stayed wide, fixed on me as though she were studying the shape of my fear. "You were warned," she murmured. Her voice seemed to echo without sound, vibrating in my bones more than in my ears. "I just want to understand this place," I said. My voice trembled slightly despite me trying to steady it. "Why is the town awake?" Her expression did not change. Her eyelids remained stretched unnaturally wide. "Greywick does not wake," she whispered. "Greywick watches." I swallowed. "Watches what?" "You!" The streetlights flickered alive one by one, each bulb glowing with a cold white light that cast long shadows across the cracked pavement. The silhouettes inside the diner windows twitched just an inch, just enough to prove they had not been carved from shadow. They were waiting, watching. I took one slow step forward. The woman's eyes widened further, if that was even possible. "Do not look away from me," she said sharply. "If you break eye contact, they will reach you first." "They," she didn't answer with words. Instead, the nearest window hummed softly, and a shape pressed against the glass from inside something wrong-shaped, something with too many angles. Its eyes glowed faintly. I froze. "They smell new arrivals," the woman continued. "They do not like change. They do not like questions." I forced myself to maintain eye contact with her, even as the shapes in the windows thickened, multiplying like living shadows. "Who are you?" I asked. For the first time, she blinked. The motion was slow, unnatural, as though she were repeating an action she had not performed in years. "My name was Meredith," she said, "before I became the Watcher. Watcher, it is an old role, one that keeps the eyes of Greywick from wandering too far, one that keeps newcomers from being taken too quickly. But I cannot protect you if you do not obey." Every word she spoke felt like a step deeper into a nightmare. The air pulsed around us, thick with presence. I could feel the town listening. "What happens if I leave?" I asked. Her head tilted again. "Then they will follow. Greywick does not lose what enters." A chill raced down my spine. What do they want with me? She took one shaky breath, the first I had seen her take. "You came after midnight. That means they chose you." "Chose me for what?" "To replace me." The street seemed to tilt beneath my feet. "Replace you? What does that mean?" Her lips trembled. "I have watched too long. My eyes are tired." Her pupils quivered like ripples on dark water. "The town needs a new watcher." The silhouettes inside the diner began tapping on the glass, slow, rhythmic, like a heartbeat. "Tap, tap, tap." Meredith stepped closer. "If you do not accept, they will take you anyway, but their way is pain." I stepped back toward the car. "I'm not staying here." Her voice sharpened. "Then don't blink." Before I could question her, the windows across the street burst with movement. Dark figures pressed forward, their glowing eyes multiplying, crawling like swarms of insects. The ground vibrated beneath me as if something beneath the town was stirring. "Run," Meredith whispered, "but keep your eyes open." I stumbled backward toward my car, my heartbeat pounding in my skull. The shadows were spilling from the windows now, stretching onto the street like living ink. The air grew colder, sharper, burning my lungs as I inhaled. I fumbled with the car door, keeping my gaze locked on Meredith's unblinking stare. But then, just for a moment, my eyes flicked to the side, drawn by a sudden movement in the corner of my vision. A single blink, one heartbeat, one mistake. The shadows lunged, and Greywick exhaled. The instant the shadows lunged at me, instinct overtook reason. I dove into the driver's seat, my breath sharp and ragged, fingers trembling as they fought with the seatbelt. The car door slammed shut with a violence that echoed down the empty street of Greywick. I didn't wait for logic or fear to catch up. I jammed the key into the ignition and twisted. The engine coughed once, as if resisting the idea of leaving this cursed town, then roared to life with a shudder that rattled through my bones. Through the windshield, I saw Meredith standing in the middle of the road, her eyes glowing faintly like two orbs of polished glass. She didn't chase me. She didn't move. She simply watched unblinking, unwavering, a sentinel carved from moonlight and dread. Behind her, the shadows writhing from the windows twisted in midair as though they were tasting my fear, memorizing the shape of my footsteps, the pulse in my throat, the sound of my name whispered beneath the roar of the engine. I slammed the accelerator. The tires screeched, skidding across the cracked pavement. The car shot forward, leaving streaks of burning rubber behind. But the shadows didn't fall away. They stretched across the street like tendrils of smoke caught in a violent wind, elongating, thinning, then snapping toward me with terrifying speed. My headlights illuminated their shapes no human anatomy could explain. Limbs sharp like broken branches, faces that existed only in fragments, eyes that glowed with a hollow hunger. Some crawled along the pavement, others glided in the air as if gravity had never applied to them, and all of them were whispering, not with mouths, because they had none, but with a kind of vibration in the air, as though the town itself had found a voice. My hands tightened around the steering wheel, knuckles whitening. I didn't dare bling. Meredith's warning burned in my mind like a brand. If I broke eye contact, they would reach me. But now that I was fleeing, there was no way to keep my gaze on her. The only thing left was speed, and the fragile hope that Greywick allowed exits as easily as it allowed entrances. Streetlights flickered past in a stuttering rhythm, each one flashing like a camera, capturing the last moments of a doomed traveler. The fog pressed against the windshield, thick and alive, swirling into shapes that resembled faces, dozens of them, all staring, all following. The road twisted sharply. I turned the wheel, but the fog distorted my depth perception. For a heartbeat, I saw the road splitting into 3 directions. A hallucination, a trick of Greywick. I didn't know. I chose the center path and prayed the town allowed the choice. But Greywick had no intention of letting me go easily. A figure appeared in the road, not Meredith, someone else. A man, or what was left of one. His face was stretched, elongated, frozen in an expression of terror so raw it felt ancient. His arms reached for the car, his fingers bending at impossible angles, his eyes wide, unblinking, glassy, locked on mine. I swerved violently. The car spun, tires losing traction. For a moment, the world became nothing but motion and sound. The howl of the engine, the scream of rubber, my heartbeat pounding like a war drum. Then the car slammed into something with a dull, sickening impact. Everything went silent. When my vision cleared, I found myself slumped over the steering wheel, the metallic taste of blood in my mouth. The headlights cast cones of pale light into the fog, illuminating broken pieces of wood and stone. I had crashed into an old sign, one half buried beneath decades of dirt and vines. I pushed the door open, my legs weak as I stepped into the chilling air. The fog parted slightly, revealing the shattered sign. "Welcome back, Evan Carter." My blood froze. The sign wasn't old, it wasn't decayed. It had been made recently, carved cleanly, the paint still fresh, the letters bold. Someone or something in Greywick knew my name, and it had prepared a welcome. A whisper curled around me, low and resonant. "You should not have blinked." I spun around. Meredith stood only a few feet away, though I had not heard her approach. Her nightgown drifted as if underwater, her hair floating weightlessly around her pale face. "You cannot outrun them now," she said softly. "They have learned your name. They have tasted your presence." Behind her, the shadows gathered massive, crawling, merging into each other until they formed a single roiling mass of darkness, shot through with glowing eyes. "What do they want from me?" I asked, voice hoarse. "To claim you," Meredith whispered, "to make you theirs. Only then will the town sleep again. I shook my head. I'm not becoming the watcher. She blinked only once. Everyone says that at first. The whispering intensified. The shadows pulsed like a single enormous heartbeat. I backed away, but Meredith stepped forward, raising a hand. Upon her palm, a faint symbol glowed, an eye carved into her skin. "This is the mark of the Watcher," she said. "If they cannot claim your body, they will claim your memories, your voice, your very name, until nothing remains but the echo of who you were." Fog thickened around my legs like cold chains, anchoring me in place. My breaths came faster, turning to frost in the air. "You must choose quickly," Meredith warned. "Fight them, or accept your place." But before I could speak, the shadows surged forward in a violent wave, and the world dissolved into darkness. Darkness swallowed everything. When consciousness returned, it came slowly, like rising through layers of thick, cold water. My ears rang with a hollow resonance, a humming that felt more like pressure than sound. For a moment, I thought I had gone deaf. Then the darkness shifted. It wasn't absence, it was presence. Something was there with me. I opened my eyes. A faint bluish glow pulsed through the fog above me. The ground beneath my body was cold stone, damp and uneven. I pushed myself upright, head throbbing, breath trembling. The shadows were gone. The street was gone, and Meredith was nowhere to be seen. But Greywick was breathing. The fog around me rose and fell in a soul, rhythmic swell, like the exhale of some enormous creature slumbering just beneath the surface of the world. Every breath carried flecks of ash-like dust that shimmered in the faint light. I staggered to my feet. "What is this place?" I whispered. The fog quivered, as if responding. Shapes formed in the mist faces, dozens of them, stretched thin and distorted. Their mouths didn't move, but their eyes did. Eyes that glowed faintly, eyes that watched. A whisper slipped around me, threading through my ribs. "You entered after midnight. You belong to us now." I spun around, searching for the source, but the fog shifted too quickly to pinpoint. The whispers came from everywhere above, below, inside my skull. I forced myself forward, navigating uneven ground that sloped downward. The fog thinned enough to reveal outlines, broken walls, collapsed roofs, structures half buried like archaeological ruins. Had I been pulled underground, or into some hidden layer of Greywick no map had ever shown? My steps echoed faintly. Then, abruptly, the fog parted. A vast chamber stretched before me, an underground cathedral carved entirely from stone. Tall pillars rose like rib bones toward a ceiling lost in darkness, and at the center stood a statue. No, not a statue. Meredith. She stood atop a circular platform, motionless, her eyes wide open. But her expression was different, blank, empty, as if she had been drained of something essential. "Meredith," I called. Her head twitched, slowly, painfully. Her eyes rolled toward me. "You should not have followed," she whispered. "I didn't follow. I was dragged." Her lips trembled. "That is worse." Before I could respond, the ground vibrated. Stone fragments fell from above, clattering across the chamber floor. The pillars groaned. Greywick inhaled. The shadows poured into the room like a flood, crawling from the cracks in the walls, the gaps in the ceiling, the seams between the stones. shadows. They converged into a swirling mass, rising like a dark storm around Meredith's platform. And then a voice emerged from the center of the darkness. Evan Carter. It spoke my name with an unnatural clarity, each syllable stretched thin like a taut string. The shadows peeled apart, revealing a figure inside the mass, tall, thin, wearing what looked like the remnants of an old suit, torn and frayed. His face was smooth, featureless, but when he turned toward me, two eyes blinked open across the blank surface. Eyes made of swirling fog. Greywick remembers you. My pulse hammered. I took a step back. What are you? I demanded. The fog eyes blinked again. Memory. Hunger. Continuity. Greywick survives by taking what enters. And you, the voice lowered. You have brought much to take. Meredith's voice cracked. Run! The figure lifted an arm. Shadow tendrils shot forward, slicing through the air. I threw myself behind a fallen pillar as they slammed into stone, blasting fragments everywhere. The whispering intensified. Your memories, your voice, your shape. They will fill us. Another tendril lashed out. I rolled aside just in time. Stone shattered where I had been standing. I crawled behind a broken wall, heart racing. Meredith, how do I stop it? You can't, she cried. Not unless you take my place. Become the Watcher. No, you don't understand. She struggled against invisible restraints. The Watcher keeps Greywick asleep. Without one, the town feeds. The figure turned toward her. She weakens. You will replace her. No, Meredith screamed. Her voice echoed through the chamber, raw and desperate. I forced myself upright. I won't become part of this town. I won't become you. The featureless figure turned toward me again. Then you will be consumed. It surged forward, shadows forming into jaws vast, serrated shapes lunging toward me. I dodged behind a pillar, then another, but the shadows followed, curling around stone like liquid ink. You cannot run, the fog voice said. You breathed Greywick. You heard its name. You woke its hunger. I stumbled backward until my hand touched the platform Meredith stood on. She looked down at me, her eyes piercing, terrified. Evan, if you take the mark, you control the shadows. I don't want to control them. The alternative, she whispered, is becoming their meal. The chamber shook violently. The shadow creature howled, its form shifting with rage. I looked at Meredith's outstretched hand, the glowing eye carved into her palm. Take it, she whispered, before it's too late. The shadows lunged. I had 1 second to choose. For one suspended moment, the world held its breath. The swirling darkness, the trembling stone beneath my feet, the echo of Meredith's desperate plea. It all froze in a single, impossible instant. The shadows lunged, jaws widening into a void meant to erase me. Yet time stretched thin, like a membrane about to split. All I could hear was the pounding of my heart, a drum calling for choices I never wanted to make. My hand hovered inches above Meredith's outstretched palm. The glowing eye carved into her skin pulsed with an eerie light, as though it saw me, judged me, waited for my consent. The shadows were nearly upon me, cold tendrils brushing my legs like icy fingers. I made my choice. I grabbed her hand. Heat surged through my arm, not burning, not painful, but a force like raw electricity. The mark flared. The world exploded in white-blue light. The shadows reeled backward, shrieking in a voice that didn't belong to any creature of flesh or bone. My vision blurred. My lungs seized. My legs quaked. It felt as though every memory I had ever held was dragged to the surface and examined under a merciless gaze. Meredith collapsed as soon as my hand touched hers. Her eyes fluttered closed for the first time since I had met her. Her body sagged as if freed from enormous weight. The glowing eye carved into her palm dimmed and then flickered out entirely. The mark was no longer hers. It was mine. The shock nearly knocked me down. My hand burned with power not mine, but something older, heavier, threaded through with whispers, thousands of whispers, memories not my own, pain not my own, warnings not my own. I staggered backward, clutching my arm. Across the chamber, the faceless figure straightened, its swirling eyes narrowing. "It has chosen you," it said, voice cracking like splitting stone. "The mark awakens. The watcher rises." "I'm not the watcher," I gasped. "You breathe, Greywick. You hold its eye. You stand where the others stood." The shadows surged, but this time they hesitated. Their tendrils curled away from me, recoiling like animals afraid of fire. The mark glowed faintly on my palm, its light rippling outward in concentric waves across the stone floor. "What does this mean?" I shouted. Meredith lifted her head weakly. She looked younger now, free, but fading. "It means the town listens to you now. It means you have one chance to command it before the mark consumes you, consumes me. You carry a burden meant for guardians, not wanderers." Her eyes darkened. "You cannot hold it for long." The faceless figure stepped forward, the shadows shifting like a cloak around its slender form. "You are fragile flesh," it said. "Memory bends you easily. Greywick will remake you soon enough. Stay back," I yelled. The mark flared again, brighter this time, and the shadows recoiled violently. The faceless figure staggered, cracks forming across its blank head. "You wield it clumsily," it hissed, "but you will learn, or you will break." "Evan," Meredith whispered urgently, "you must choose what to do with the mark. You can command the town to sleep again, but only if you face the hollow core." "The what?" "The heart of Greywick, where the first watcher bound the shadows, where the town breathes." My blood turned cold. "You're telling me this nightmare has a beating heart?" "Yes, and it wakes fully at dawn." A low rumble shook the chamber, dust falling from above. The pillars groaned like ancient bones. The faceless figure tilted its head. "Too late," it crooned. Greywick opens its eyes. The ground cracked. A deep, shuddering breath rolled through the chamber, the town inhaling, preparing to awaken completely. Meredith reached for me weakly. "Evan, please, seal it. If the hollow core wakes, Greywick will hunger for more than just memories." "What do I do? How do I get there?" She pointed toward a dark archway at the far end of the chamber. It pulsed with faint red light, as though veins of magma beat behind its walls. "That passage leads down, but be warned. The shadows cannot touch you, yet they can still distract you, confuse you, twist your mind. I've been confused since the moment I got here. Her lips curved into the smallest, saddest smile. Then you're already halfway there. The faceless figure lunged, not to attack, but to block the path. You will not reach the core. It whispered, "You belong to us now." "No," I said, raising my hand. "Not yet." The mark ignited. A beam of cold blue light blasted from my palm. The faceless figure screamed as the light struck it, dissolving pieces of its form. The shadows shriveled, retreating into cracks and crevices, the chamber filled with blinding radiance, forcing me to shield my eyes. When the light finally faded, the path to the archway was clear. Meredith collapsed completely. The glow around her body faded. "Go," she whispered, before Greywick breathes again. I didn't want to leave her, but the ground buckled violently. Cracks raced along the floor toward me like lightning. There was no choice. I ran. The passage swallowed me whole, narrow, twisting, walls pulsing like a throat. Every step took me deeper into Greywick's body, deeper into the nightmare I had inherited. Behind me, the shadows howled. Ahead of me, red light throbbed like a beating heart. And in my hand, the mark burned hotter. The deeper I went, the louder the town breathed. Greywick was waking, and it was waking for me. The tunnel constricted around me like the throat of some sleeping titan, its walls trembling with every beat of Greywick's monstrous breath. The deeper I descended, the louder the pulse became steady, relentless, a rhythm that did not belong to any living creature. The mark on my palm glowed brighter, casting cold blue light that fought desperately against the red hue, pulsing from the depths below. Every step I took seemed to echo twice, once in my ears and once inside my skull, as if the town were mimicking me. I could still hear the distant shrieks of the shadows behind me. Their rage shook the tunnel walls. They were afraid of the mark now, but that did not mean they would stop hunting me. They wanted the new watcher. They wanted me, whether I chose the title or not. The tunnel bent sharply, forcing me to brace myself against the trembling stone. The walls pulsed like veins, hot and cold in alternating waves. The descent grew steeper until I was nearly sliding rather than walking. My legs burned, my breath fogged the air, and the mark throbbed painfully. Then the tunnel opened. I stumbled forward into an enormous cavern so vast it felt like standing inside the ribcage of a dead god. Towering stone pillars rose upward until they vanished into swirling fog. The ground was uneven, cracked with glowing red fissures that cast an ominous light, and at the center, suspended by what seemed like strands of black mist, hung a massive sphere of darkness. The hollow core. It looked alive. Every few seconds, the sphere expanded with a deep breath, then contracted, pulling in air and dust from the cavern. The red glow brightened with each inhalation. The mark on my hand responded, pulsing in sync. The connection made my stomach twist in fear. My voice cracked as I whispered, "So this is where the town breathes." A soft echo answered, not from behind me, not from the tunnel, but from the sphere itself. "Watcher." I froze. The voice was neither male nor female. It was many voices layered together, like a choir whispering through soot and ash. "Watcher, you descend at last." "I'm not the Watcher," I said, though the words trembled inside me. The sphere shivered. A ripple of shadow rolled across its surface. The mark chooses. The town obeys. I took a step back. "I don't want this. I just want to leave. You entered after midnight. You took the mark. You carry our eye." Greywick remembers all who walk its paths. A low rumble thundered through the cavern. Dust cascaded from above. The shadows gathering near the fissures stirred, watching with glowing pinpoint eyes. They could not approach me, but they circled like wolves waiting for a fire to die. The sphere inhaled again, dragging wind and debris toward its surface. My clothes tugged violently, the mark on my hand seared with cold fire. I shielded my face. "What do you want from me?" The voices merged into one booming whisper. "To sleep." The cavern shook. The core swelled, cracks forming across its surface. Shadows dripped from it like black water. I stumbled backward as the heat intensified. "Greywick wakes," the voice continued, "but the Watcher may soothe it once more. Bind the hunger, quiet the memory." "And how do I do that?" I shouted. The sphere pulsed a final time. "Reveal the fear you carry. Offer what you guard." The Watcher's burden begins with truth. Suddenly, the cavern erupted in a blinding burst of light. Images slammed into my mind. My childhood street, the night my brother vanished, the feeling of being watched in my own home, the years of chasing mysteries that tore holes in my life. Every memory I had suppressed flared before my eyes. No stop. The core drank them in. It showed me the emptiness behind each moment, the shadows that twist through memory, the things I never dared admit even to myself. "You must bear what is hidden." The whisper echoed. "Greywick feeds on secrets. Calm it with truth, or it will take truth from you." I collapsed to my knees, clutching my head. The mark pulsed wildly, brightening and dimming in frantic rhythms. "I can't," I gasped. "I don't know what it wants." The shadows surrounding the fissures began creeping closer, emboldened by my weakness. The red light brightened. The core inhaled so violently that loose stones slid toward it. I was losing. I could feel it. Greywick's hunger weaving through my mind, unraveling my memories thread by thread. Then a voice broke through the chaos. "Evan," Meredith's voice. I spun around. At the edge of the cavern, leaning weakly against the wall, was Meredith. She was bruised, pale, barely standing but alive. "You still have time," she whispered. "You must choose what truth you give. It doesn't need everything, just the memory you fear most." "I don't know what that is." "Yes, you do." Her eyes softened. "The thing you never say aloud. The thing that brought you here." My pulse hammered. The core inhaled again, harder than ever. Rocks lifted from the ground. Meredith's voice echoed faintly. "Give it the memory that haunts you, or it will take everything else." The cavern darkened. The mark blazed like a star. The shadows shrieked, and I knew I couldn't run anymore. I stood, closed my eyes, and spoke the memory I had buried for years. The core stopped breathing. Then it listened. Everything went silent. The cavern held its breath with me. For a moment, the world felt impossibly still. No pulsing walls, no trembling stone. No shadows screaming from the fissures. Even the hollow core froze mid-inhalation, its swirling surface tightening like the skin of a great beast waiting for a command. The mark on my palm glowed fiercely, casting blue light across the cavern floor. I had spoken the memory, the one I swore I would bury forever. My brother didn't vanish. I whispered, my voice echoing through the dark. I left him. The words tasted like rust and poison. I never told anyone the truth. Not my parents, not the police, not myself, not really. I always said he wandered off, that I looked away for a second, but the truth was sharper. I had run ahead out of anger. I had ignored his call. When I finally turned back, he was gone. The core responded with a deep shudder. Its surface rippled, absorbing my confession like a sponge, drinking spilled ink. Faint whispers swarmed around me, some familiar, some ancient, all merging into a single resonant hum. Truth offered. The cavern darkened as the core contracted, pulling in air, dust, even light itself. The shadows shrank back, pressing against the walls, their glowing eyes flickering with something I'd never seen before. Fear, not of me, but of what the core was becoming. The mark on my hand pulsed again, sending a cold shock up my arm. Meredith, still slumped against the cavern wall, lifted her head weakly. "You've done it," she whispered. "You've fed it the one thing it couldn't take by force. Will it sleep now?" I asked, barely daring hope. But before she could answer, the core expanded violently. A wave of pressure blasted across the cavern. I staggered backward as a torrent of visions erupted from the sphere. Images of past watchers, their faces twisted by centuries of burden, shadows swarming over helpless townsfolk. Greywick's streets bending and twisting like the ribs of a dying animal. Then a new vision, one I had never seen before. Me, standing in the center of Greywick, eyes glowing like the mark, hands raised, commanding. "No," I gasped. "That's not going to happen." Meredith struggled to her feet. The core sees possibilities, not certainties. It tests you. It must know whether you will control the town or let the town control you. The core inhaled sharply, forming a vortex of wind that nearly pulled me off my feet. My clothes tugged violently. The fissures across the cavern floor lit up like veins of molten fire. The shadows swarmed again, drawn forward despite their fear. They circled me like vultures sensing an animal near death. Their whispers grew louder, more desperate. "Watcher, watcher, watcher. I'm not your watcher," I shouted, but the cavern did not agree. The core's voice deepened, layered with thousands of echoes. "You carry the mark. You bear the truth. You awaken the hunger. You calm it or become it." A crack split the ground beneath my feet. Meredith's eyes widened in terror. "Evan, do not let it claim you." The core pulsed once like a heartbeat. Then a tendril of pure darkness shot outward, aimed directly at my chest. I reacted instinctively. The mark flared with blinding blue light, projecting a barrier that split the cavern in half. The tendril smashed against it, scattering into fragments of shadow that dissolved into mist. The entire cavern trembled. The core inhaled again, stronger, harsher, as if my resistance only fueled its hunger. I stumbled. The mark dimmed. My strength wavered, memories clawed at my mind, my brother's voice, my guilt, the long years of pretending I wasn't broken. The core twisted those memories, magnifying them, distorting them, trying to consume them, trying to consume me. Meredith's voice cut through the chaos. Evan, listen to me. The mark does not control you. You control it. The core feeds on fear. Yeah, but it listens to truth. You must command it now or be lost. How? I yelled. Tell it what you want. The cavern quieted. The core paused. The shadows froze. All eyes, hundreds, thousands turned toward me. My throat tightened. I want Greywick to sleep. The core vibrated. To sleep, I repeated, louder this time. To stop feeding, to let go of the memories it's stolen. To rest, the sphere expanded, stretching as though my words pressed outward from within. Blue and red light collided across its surface. Accepted, the core whispered, but not complete. What does that mean? A deep rumble cracked the cavern floor wide open. A flood of shadows poured upward, spiraling around the core. A massive figure began forming in the center, larger than any shadow creature I'd seen before. Its shape twisted, grew, shifted. A towering humanoid form emerged, easily 30 feet tall, draped in layers of shadow like torn fabric. Its face was a void, its limbs too long, its chest marked by a massive glowing eye that mirrored the one on my palm. Meredith gasped. It's forming the Guardian. What Guardian? The one who will enforce your command, she whispered. If you truly want Greywick to sleep, the Guardian must sleep with it. The figure leaned forward, its voice rumbling like thunder. Watcher, Watcher, choose. Choose what? I looked at Meredith. Her eyes softened with sadness. It means one of two things, she said. Either you bind the Guardian and keep the mark forever, or you offer the mark back to the core and let the Guardian take your place. Take my place, I asked. As the Watcher, she nodded slowly. And if I don't choose, Greywick wakes fully, and everything gets devoured. The Guardian lowered its massive head, waiting. The core thrummed with anticipation. Meredith whispered, Evan, you must choose now. My heart pounded. Keep the mark and bind the town forever, or give up the mark and give up myself. I raised my hand and made my choice. The cavern trembled beneath my feet as though Greywick itself waited for my decision. The Guardian towered above me, its massive form stitched together by layers of drifting shadow. The giant eye set into its chest glowed with the same cold blue light as the mark on my palm. Every breath I took echoed across the cavern, bouncing between the stone pillars like a warning no one wanted to say aloud. Behind me, Meredith struggled to stay standing, one hand gripping the cavern wall, the last remnants of her former power flickering weakly around her. Evan, she whispered, you must choose now. The Guardian leaned closer, the air bending around its immense frame. Shadows poured from its limbs like oil, pooling on the cavern floor. Its voice rumbled from deep within the chamber. Watcher, choose your ending. Ending. The word hit me like cold steel. The hollow core pulsed violently behind the Guardian, each expansion shaking dust loose from the ceiling. Red veins crackled across its surface, like lightning trapped inside flesh. If it woke fully, the entire town and everything connected to it would be swallowed. Two paths lay before me. Neither led to freedom. Keep the mark, bind the guardian, and become the eternal watcher. Or surrender the mark. Die and let the guardian serve in my place. Meredith's eyes met mine, full of sorrow and unspoken apology. She had carried this burden for decades. She had lived and died inside this darkness long before I stumbled into it. The guardian's massive head lowered until the glowing eye on its chest aligned with my own. Command or surrender. I felt the mark burning hotter, threatening to sear through my skin. The blue glow pulsed wildly, matching the frantic beating of my heart. I can't do this, I whispered. You can, Meredith said weakly, because you already have. The core inhaled sharply. A violent force nearly dragged me off my feet. Cracks spread across the cavern floor like black lightning. If I didn't choose now, the town would wake and everything would be lost. I stepped forward. The guardian's eyes widened. The mark blazed brighter than ever. I choose. But before I could finish, the core exploded with shrieking force. A maelstrom of shadows erupted outward, filling the cavern with darkness so thick I couldn't breathe. Screams, hundreds, thousands, echoed from the walls, each one a memory trapped inside the town, begging to escape. I threw my arm up to shield my face as the mark unleashed a violent surge of blue light. The blast tore through the shadows, carving a path around me. The guardian roared, its voice shaking the pillars. The town rises. The watcher must stand. Choose. I stumbled, hitting the ground hard. The mark flickered violently bright 1 second, dim the next. Meredith crawled toward me, her expression desperate. Evan, she gasped. The core is forcing you. You must make the choice before it wakes fully. Shadows lunged toward me, snapping like jaws. I screamed and thrust the mark forward. A wave of light exploded outward, incinerating them into dust. But the core kept expanding, kept cracking, kept waking. The guardian stepped between me and the core, raising its colossal limbs. Its eye flared brilliantly, pushing back the tidal wave of darkness. Watcher, speak your command. My breath trembled. My voice shook. I don't want to die, I whispered. The words spilled out before I could stop them. I don't want to fade into this town. Meredith froze. Pain streaked across her face. The guardian lowered its head. Then bind, it rumbled. Bind us, bind the hunger, become the voice of sleep. No, Meredith said instantly. Evan, listen to me. But the core roared, drowning out her voice. A violent blast of energy launched both of us backward. The guardian staggered but did not fall. I hit the ground hard, coughing. Evan, Meredith choked. Please don't let the mark devour you. If you take this burden, you lose your sense of self. Your memories will become echoes. Your body will fade. I don't want to die, I repeated, and I don't want you to disappear, she whispered. There is still a way to live. The shadows swirled violently. The core split open wider. A torrent of red and black swirled within its depths. Meredith crawled closer, grabbing my arm. Give the mark to the guardian, she pleaded. It will sleep. It will take your place. You will live, but But won't it become me? No, she whispered. It will become the Watcher, not Evan. You remain yourself. The Guardian stood tall, waiting. The core shrieked. One more breath and the town would wake. I screamed over the chaos. I choose. I choose. The mark erupted. Light engulfed us all, and I made my final decision. The world did not explode the way I expected. Instead, the light from the mark burst outward in a silent wave, soundless, weightless, but powerful enough to bend the darkness around us. The cavern shuddered, as though its bones were grinding together. The Guardian's towering form froze mid-stride, its chest eye locked onto the mark as it floated in the air like a suspended star. The hollow core inhaled sharply. Everything trembled, and then stillness. The mark hovered between me and the Guardian, spinning slowly. Threads of blue light unraveled from it, stretching toward both of us like divine veins trying to choose their destination. Watcher, the Guardian rumbled, its voice quaking the stone beneath my feet. Your choice must be spoken. But I had spoken. I had screamed my choice into the void. The mark had heard. Now it hesitated. Meredith staggered to my side, leaning heavily on the wall. Her breaths were shallow, her form flickering with the last remnants of her borrowed existence. She lifted her trembling hand toward the mark. It's listening, she whispered. It hasn't decided yet. Evan, it's waiting for clarity, for intention. I gave it everything. I said, what else does it want? The truth, she replied. Your heart speaks fear and desire at the same time. You want to live, but you fear becoming something else. You want to surrender, but fear what it means for Greywick. The mark feels both truths. The core roared, swelling outward in a violent pulse. The shockwave shook loose slabs of ancient stone from the ceiling. A scarlet glow poured across the cavern like volcanic blood. The Guardian turned toward the core. It wakes more quickly, it warned. Watcher must choose. Now, the mark spun faster. Light flared from it in bursts, blue, then white, then a strange flicker of gray. Gray, a color the mark had never shown before. What is that? I whispered. Meredith's expression collapsed into despair. It means the mark is splitting. Splitting? Is that bad? It means, she said slowly, it is trying to create a third path. A third path. For a moment, my breath caught. Could it be a way out? A way where neither I nor the Guardian had to lose everything. The mark floated higher, glowing brighter. The gray light pulsed again. The core let out a scream that twisted the air, bending the cavern walls like liquid. The Guardian stepped forward. Watcher, speak the intended fate. Speak the third path. I don't know what it is. You must decide. Shadows burst from the core in a spiraling torrent, rushing toward me. My instincts took over. I threw up my arm and screamed as the mark shot a beam of blue light that ripped through the darkness like fire through dry leaves. Evan, Meredith cried, listen to your heart. What do you want to happen? Not what you fear. The ground split open beneath me. Red light poured upward. The core swelled again, its cracked surface stretching like torn skin. If I didn't choose soon, it would wake completely. I closed my eyes and felt the cold air air tear through my lungs. I didn't want to die. I didn't want to become an immortal prisoner to a town that ate memories. But more than anything, I want Greywick to stop suffering, I whispered. The mark pulsed. I want the town to stop feeding on fear. I want the hunger to end. A stillness passed through the cavern, heavy and absolute. The Guardian's head turned slowly toward me. Define end. I want the core to sleep, I said, not because it's forced, not because it's chained, but because it's healed. The Guardian tilted its massive form as if processing something beyond its understanding. Meredith's breath hitched. Evan, you're asking the core to change its nature. I'm asking it to stop needing pain. Can it do that? The core was born from pain, she whispered. But perhaps, if the Watcher wills it. The mark exploded in light. Gray, blue, white. A spiral of energy shot from it, striking the core directly in its center. The core shrieked, the sound splitting into thousands of overlapping voices. Fear, rage, sorrow, longing. The Guardian roared in response, planting its massive arms in the ground to keep from being pulled into the energy vortex. Meredith clung to me as the cavern shook like a dying heart. The core cracked open fully. Inside it, I saw something I never expected. Not eyes, not fire, but a child. A small child curled within the darkness, made of fog and memory. Its face was soft, undefined, shifting. Its form flickered like a candle about to extinguish. A memory, Meredith whispered in awe. The core is a memory. That's why it grows by devouring others. It was born incomplete. It was born empty. The child's eyes opened, glowing red and blue at once. And suddenly, something inside me broke. My brother, I whispered. The fog child blinked, not recognizing me, yet somehow connected to my grief. Not him, but reflecting him, a mirror of the pain I carried. The mark flared again. Gray light wrapped around the child, pulling it upward from the broken shell of the core. The cavern shook violently. The core began collapsing inward. The Guardian roared in alarm. The third path is chosen, it bellowed. Watcher's will reshapes the core. The energy vortex intensified. The ground splintered. Fog spiraled upward, swirling around the child as it floated higher. The mark flew into my chest. I gasped as cold fire filled me. Light poured from my eyes. The cavern disappeared. For a moment, I stood in a vast gray expanse with the fog child before me. It reached out, not to take, but to give. Warmth spread through my mind, my memories untouched. My brother's voice no longer a wound, the core's hunger quiet. When I opened my eyes, I was back in the cavern. Meredith knelt beside me, eyes wide. The Guardian bowed its massive head. The core was no longer screaming. The red glow had faded to pale silver. The cavern was still. The fog child drifted into the air, glowing softly. Then it dissolved into harmless mist, and the core let out a soft, peaceful sigh. Watcher, the Guardian said quietly. The town sleeps. I fell to my knees, exhausted, alive. My choice had worked. but I had no idea what the cost would be. For several long moments after the core settled into its silver stillness, the entire cavern seemed to hold its breath. No shadows screamed, no distant pulses throbbed through the stone, no hungry whisper crawled beneath my thoughts. Only silence, heavy, unfamiliar, almost sacred. I pressed a hand to my chest where the mark had been moments earlier. Though it was gone, I felt its ghost flicker within me like a lingering ember in a dying fire. The fog child's warmth still echoed in my mind, soft and steady, a quiet reminder that the core no longer fed on fear. It no longer needed to. Behind me, the guardian knelt with a rumble that shook loose the last flakes of dust from the cavern ceiling. The towering titan bowed its massive head toward the silver core. Without the mark's hunger inside it, the guardian looked calmer, less like a monster sculpted from nightmare smoke, and more like a sentinel waiting for orders. The Watcher's will has reshaped the town, it intoned. The hunger ends. I swallowed. Then, it's done. For this night, the Guardian said, but the Watcher has not been chosen. Meredith exhaled sharply, almost a laugh, but too exhausted to form one properly. Then you hear that. Evan, you're not bound. The town sleeps, yet you are still yourself. I wanted to believe her. I almost did, but something still felt wrong. I looked up at the silver core. Its once violent glow had softened into a gentle pale light, almost like moonlight filtered through winter fog. The fog drifting from it no longer lunged or twisted. It floated like breath on a cold morning quiet, harmless, but every so often, faint ripples moved across its surface. Not dangerous, not violent, but alive. Is it safe? I whispered. The Guardian tilted its head. The core heals, memory mends, it rests, and the town, Greywick, will dream without hunger, but dreams. The Guardian paused, shadows shifting. Our dreams may yet stir. I frowned. That sounds like a warning, not a warning. It said, a truth. Meredith stepped forward, wobbling. I caught her before she fell. Her form flickered again, and for the first time, fear tightened her expression. I'm fading, she whispered, faster than I expected. Meredith, no. She gave a weak smile. My existence was borrowed, prolonged by the core's hunger. Without it feeding, without the mark binding me, my time is almost gone. My chest tightened. But you're free now. Yes. She rested her forehead briefly against my shoulder. Finally, the cavern groaned as something shifted deep within the stone, not violent, merely adjusting, like a sleeper moving beneath heavy blankets. The Guardian stood, Watcher who is not Watcher. It rumbled. Your will shaped this night. Your choice carved the path, but one final act remains. I tensed. What act? Leave. I blinked. What? Leave the caverns. Leave Greywick. While the town sleeps, you may walk free. Meredith nodded weakly. This is your chance. Evan, the one nobody else ever got. I stared at the silver core. What will happen if I stay? The Guardian's chest eye dimmed. The core may see you as anchor, as memory, as guide. If it binds to you again, your third path will close, meaning I would become the Watcher after all, meaning I could lose myself. I have to go, I whispered. Yes, Meredith said, but before you do, there's something I must tell you." Her form flickered hard. I grabbed her shoulders. "Meredith, stay with me." "I'm trying," she whispered. "But listen, the choice you made tonight, it didn't just reshape the core, it reshaped the Guardian." I looked toward the Titan. Its massive silhouette had grown softer, not physically, but in presence. It was no longer fueled by hunger or rage. It was something else. "A Guardian is meant to obey the Watcher," Meredith continued, "but now it obeys the core itself, and the core will dream. That means it could wake again." I finished. "Not from hunger," she corrected, "but from fear." I stared at her. "Fear? The town feeds on fear." "No," she shook her head. "It echoes it, reflects it, shapes it, Evan. Whatever Greywick dreams will come from the minds of those who live here." "That sounds dangerous." "It can be," she whispered, "or it can be beautiful." Her body flickered again. "No, Meredith, stay with me." She placed a hand over mine. "I'll stay long enough to see you reach the surface." The Guardian approached the cavern entrance, shadows parting around it like obedient mist. "The path is open. Walk while the core rests." I slipped Meredith's arm over my shoulder. Together, we moved across the cavern floor, past the silent silver core and the kneeling Guardian. At the entrance, I turned back one last time. The Guardian bowed its colossal head. "Dream well, Evan Hart," it said. "Whatever Greywick becomes, it remembers you." I swallowed hard. "Goodbye." The Guardian did not reply. It simply watched, unmoving, as we left the chamber and stepped into the narrow tunnel leading upward. The climb was slow, painfully slow. Meredith grew weaker with every step. The tunnel no longer pulsed like a living throat. Instead, it hummed with a steady rhythm like a heartbeat at rest. When we reached the final incline, the air grew warmer, brighter. A faint glow appeared above us, moonlight. "Almost there," I whispered. Meredith's voice was barely a breath. "Thank you for ending it." I tightened my grip on her. "You ended it. No," she whispered. "You gave the core something it never had before." "What?" "Compassion." We stepped out into the open. The night sky stretched above us, cold, endless, breathtaking. Greywick's buildings were still, silent, peaceful. The shadows that once stalked the streets were gone. The air no longer felt heavy or haunted. For the first time since entering the town, I felt free. Meredith leaned heavily into me. Her form flickered once, twice. Then she smiled and dissolved into soft silver mist. "Meredith." The mist drifted upward, glowing faintly in the moonlight. I reached out instinctively, but my fingers passed through empty air. The last trace of her voice brushed my ear like a quiet exhale. "Live." The mist faded. I fell to my knees. She was gone, but she was free, and the town slept. I looked down the silent road leading out of Greywick. My heart pounded in my chest. The Guardian's words echoed within me. "Walk while the town sleeps." So I stood, wiped the last tears from my eyes, and began the long walk out of Greywick. not as a watcher, not as a prisoner, but as someone finally free to choose his own path. Whatever waited outside the town, it would be mine to face. And behind me, for the first time in its long and haunted existence, Greywick dreamed peacefully. The road stretching out of Greywick was nothing like the one I had walked in on. When I first entered the town, the sky felt suffocating, the air metallic, and the night unnaturally heavy, as if the world itself held its breath in dread. Now the moon shone clearly overhead, brushing the rooftops with silver. The fog lay soft and thin, drifting like the sigh of a sleeping giant. For the first time since the nightmare began, Greywick looked harmless, almost peaceful, but my steps were unsteady. My legs trembled not from fatigue alone, but from the weight of everything that had happened. The core's transformation, Meredith's fading, the Guardian's bow, the fog child, the third path I carved without understanding its true consequences. I paused at the edge of town. Behind me, Greywick lay quiet. Too quiet. The silence wasn't threatening. It was full, deep, the kind of silence a person hears after a long cry. A silence that heals and hurts all at once. "Live," Meredith had whispered. I closed my eyes. "I'm trying." The night wind picked up, carrying the faint scent of pine and cold air. Not fog, not stone dust, just night. But when I turned toward the long road leading out of Greywick, something inside me tightened like a rope, pulling me backward, a feeling I couldn't name. The road didn't look threatening, but it didn't look welcoming either. It simply watched, just like the town once did. I took a step. The ground beneath me shifted slightly, not physically, but in feeling, like stepping onto a boundary between two worlds. And then, footsteps, not behind me, beside me, soft, measured, gentle. I turned sharply. A figure stood at the edge of the road, where the last building's shadow touched the gravel. A young girl, maybe 12 or 13, her hair long and dark, her dress simple, old-fashioned, fluttering faintly in the breeze. She stared at me with eyes that shimmered silver like the core. I froze. "Who are you?" The girl tilted her head. "You're leaving," she said softly. Her voice carried the same calm resonance I felt inside the core. Not threatening, not hungry, just knowing. "Yeah," I answered. "I have to." She nodded slowly, as if she expected that, or feared it. The town will dream now, and dreams need watchers. "I'm not the watcher," I said quickly. I chose not to be. A faint smile tugged at the corner of her mouth. "You chose the third path, and that means the town listens to you, even if it doesn't bind you." A shiver ran through me. "Who are you really?" The wind stirred. The girl stepped closer, and her silhouette flickered, not like Meredith had flickered. Not fading, but shifting between ages. At one moment she looked older, then younger, then older again. A living memory. "No, an echo. You've met part of me before," she said. Deep below, when I wasn't whole, my breath caught. "The fog child. But you, how are you here?" "Because you let me heal," she said. "And because the core no longer needs to devour to live, so it gives instead. It gives form to what it once lost." She walked beside me on the road. "Greywick remembers you," she said, "and I am part of its memory." I swallowed. Are you dangerous? She smiled gently. Only if fear becomes truth again. That didn't comfort me at all. But she kept speaking. I came to tell you something before you go too far. I stopped. What is it? Her silver eyes reflected the moonlight. The third path didn't end the bond. It changed it. You are no longer a watcher. But the town still hears you. Hears me how? The same way it heard your compassion, your fear, your truth. She paused, and it hears your footsteps. I stiffened. What does that mean? She pointed back toward Greywick, and I saw it, far in the distance, just at the heart of the town. A soft pulse glowed beneath the fog. Silver, then blue, then silver again, like a heartbeat. The town is sleeping, the girl said, but it dreams of you. It follows the path you walked, and as long as you live, so will the dream you gave it. My throat tightened, so I can never truly leave. You can, she whispered. You are free, but Greywick will always remember, and sometimes memories wake. I took a shaky breath. So one day I may have to come back. She nodded. Or the town may come to you. A chill ran through me. She stepped backward, her form growing fainter. Thank you, Evan Hart, for giving the town something new. What did I give it? Hope. Then she dissolved softly, silently into drifting silver fog, and I stood alone on the road again, but not truly alone. The silence around me had changed. It was no longer a void. It was listening. I looked one last time at the sleeping town, its fog glowing faintly like a silver lantern in the dark. Good night, Greywick, I whispered. Then I turned and walked into whatever world waited beyond the road, free at last, but forever changed. The night stretched endlessly ahead of me as I walked farther from Greywick, each step feeling heavier than the one before. The moon clung low on the horizon, trailing behind me as if reluctant to let me go. The silver glow of the town dimmed slowly, sinking behind the tree line until it blended with the fog like a half-forgotten dream. But even as Greywick disappeared from sight, something inside me refused to let it go. The quiet wasn't quiet anymore. It breathed. At first, I tried to convince myself it was nothing more than exhaustion, the aftermath of nights filled with shadows, broken memories, and impossible choices. But the deeper I moved into the forest road, the stronger the sensation grew. Not a presence behind me, but something beneath me. The road itself hummed with an awareness that felt eerily familiar. Greywick was sleeping, but sleep didn't mean stillness. I paused in the middle of the path, listening. Only wind, only leaves, only the distant whisper of branches brushing against one another. But beneath those sounds was something too faint to be heard. Something felt instead, a gentle tug, a pulse, a quiet rhythm matching my heartbeat in a way no living landscape should echo. The town still hears you, the girl had said. I hadn't realized she meant it literally. I crouched down, placing my palm against the dirt. The earth was cool, damp, motionless, but beneath the surface deeper, quieter was the faintest thrum of energy, a silver note in a dark symphony. Greywick wasn't pulling me back, it wasn't binding me, it was following. The realization sent a tremor through my spine. Just stop, I whispered, unsure whether I spoke to myself, to the road. or to the living dream I had left behind? The forest gave no answer. I pushed forward, determined to continue walking until the strange pull faded. But the deeper I went, the more the world around me began to shift, not drastically, not like the impossible warping deep within Greywick's caverns, but subtly like a shadow forming before the light source has even moved. The trees grew taller, the moon grew brighter, and the fog, thin at first, began to gather at knee height, unrolling along the path in soft silver waves. I stopped cold. Greywick's fog. It had followed me, but this fog wasn't menacing or cold. It felt almost warm, brushing gently against my ankles like a cow weaving between a familiar pair of legs. It carried the smell of old wood, rain, and something soft I couldn't quite identify, like a memory I hadn't lived but somehow recognized. Then I heard footsteps again, not human, not threatening, soft, rhythmic, echoing my own, and then another set layered beneath it. I spun around. The road behind me was empty, but the fog thickened, swirling upward until a faint shape began to form, a silhouette, no taller than a child, familiar in its softness and shifting edges. My breath caught, not the girl this time, but the fog child, or rather what remained of it. "Why are you here?" I whispered. The silhouette wavered, its shape unsteady, as though undecided whether it should exist at all. It stepped toward me, and the fog around my feet brightened slightly, pulsing like a heartbeat trying to match mine. "You said you were whole," I murmured. "You said you were healed." A soft vibration rippled through the fog, an answer without words. I closed my eyes and listened. Understanding came slowly. The child wasn't following me. It wasn't appearing to warn me. It wasn't pulling me back. It was echoing me. It had become the living reflection of Greywick's dream, a dream still forming, still fragile. And dreams, by nature, cling to their creators. "You don't want anything from me," I whispered. "You're just connected." The fog child steadied, its shape becoming clearer. Not a perfect child, not a complete memory, but a presence shaped by hope and fear in equal measure. "Will you keep following me?" I asked. The fog child tilted its head. Not yes, not no, a possibility. My chest tightened. Greywick needs time, and so do I. The fog around us dimmed, releasing its gentle warmth. The child slowly stepped backward, dissolving into swirling mist until only a fading shimmer remained on the ground. Silence reclaimed the world. This time, it felt peaceful. I exhaled shakily and turned back to the road. The forest grew dimmer as the fog receded, withdrawing like a tide returning to the sea. The road felt empty again, still listening, but not pulling. For the first time since leaving the caverns, my steps felt like my own. Hours passed. Dawn began to brush pale blue across the edges of the sky. I hadn't realized how far I'd walked until the trees thinned and the land opened into a broad clearing. A signpost stood crookedly at the edge of the open field. It hadn't been there when I arrived in Greywick. The wood was old, worn but etched freshly with careful letters. Where you walk, the town remembers. A shiver traced my spine, not because it frightened me, because it understood me. Something in the clearing shifted, and I glanced to the right. A shape moved between the trees, too tall to be a human, too smooth to be an animal. It lingered only a moment before fading, its form blending with the dark bark and pale morning sky. The guardian, watching from a distance this time, no longer bound to the caves, no longer a creature of hunger or duty, just a sentinel of a sleeping dream. I bowed my head, a silent farewell. There would be other roads, other days, other choices, but Greywick would never truly disappear behind me. Some bonds don't break, some dreams don't end, some towns don't stop watching, and as long as I lived, Greywick would breathe softly, quietly. In the spaces between my footsteps, I lifted my pack, turned toward the rising sun, and began walking again, this time into a future that didn't feel like a cage. Behind me, the forest whispered one last time, and then grew still. Morning spread slowly across the forest, brushing pale gold over the trees and dissolving the last traces of silver fog that had followed me from Greywick. The sunlight felt warm, almost too warm, as if it were trying to reassure me that everything was normal now, that the nightmare had ended, that I was free. But the world didn't feel normal, not entirely. There was a strange hush in the air, not the silence of fear or the silence of a sleeping town, but the silence of anticipation, the kind that settles over a crowd just before something important is revealed. Even the trees seemed to hold their breath. I walked for another hour before the forest finally opened into wide meadows. Hills rose softly on either side, painted by the early dawn. Birds moved through the sky in graceful arcs, and the wind brushed through the grass in gentle waves. Beautiful, peaceful, alive, but none of it eased the tension wrapped tightly around my chest, because I could still feel Greywick, not pulling, not calling, but watching. Its quiet presence trailed at the edge of my awareness, like the faint memory of a dream that refused to fade. Even though the fog had vanished behind the trees hours ago, something of the town lingered in my mind like a whisper waiting for the right moment to speak. I stopped at the crest of a hill and looked back. From up here, I could no longer see Greywick, but I could see the faint shimmer of silver fog in the distance, just a thread of light, barely visible, clinging stubbornly to the horizon. And then something happened. The sun blinked, not literally, not the way an eye closes, but the daylight faltered, dimming for the briefest fragment of a second. It was so quick I thought I imagined it, until the air shifted, rippling with a soft pulse. A silver pulse. My heartbeat stumbled. "No," I whispered. "Not now." The pulse came again, gentle, distant, but undeniably real. It spread across the sky like a ripple in water, bending the morning light around it. The wind responded with a low shiver through the grass. I knew that sensation. Greywick was dreaming, and the dream had reached me before I could react. The ground around me flickered, not visibly, but perceptibly, like the world had slipped a fraction of an inch out of alignment. A familiar fog curled around my ankles, thin, almost transparent, but unmistakably alive. I backed away, not again, I breathed, but the fog didn't advance. It simply waited, swirling faintly, almost shy. Then, slowly, it began to shift, climbing upward until a shape emerged, soft, wavering, forming not the fog child, nor the silver-eyed girl, but something entirely new. A figure taller, older, vague but distinctly human. The outline of a man. My heart pounded. No, that's not possible. The mist solidified a little more, and I saw the shape of shoulders, the curve of a jawline, the faint impression of eyes that glowed blue, just like the mark once did. A voice broke through me, not from the figure, but from my memory. Where you walk, the town remembers. My throat closed. The fog man stepped closer, moving with a gentleness that didn't match the terror tightening my spine. His form flickered like an unfinished sketch, gaps where the town's dreams had not yet decided what he should be. What do you want? I asked, my voice trembling. The figure paused. Then a wave of memory crashed through me, too strong, too vivid. A face, a laugh, a boy running through the woods beside me. My brother. No, I whispered, stepping back. You're not him. You can't be him. The fog didn't answer, but its glow softened, as if acknowledging the truth but refusing to disappear. I felt my knees weaken. Greywick wasn't just dreaming, it was rebuilding, remembering, and it had reached into the deepest wound inside me. This isn't real, I said shakily. You're not real. But the figure tilted its head, just like my brother used to when he didn't understand something. The gesture pierced through me like a blade. Tears blurred my vision. Why? I whispered. Why show me this? A ripple spread through the fog man, and a distant echo filled the air. A childlike whisper layered with something ancient. Not show, understand. The world tilted. The fog child had been memory incomplete. The silver-eyed girl had been memory restored. And this was memory searching. Greywick was trying to understand me, trying to understand loss, trying to heal. My chest tightened painfully. I can't help you, I said. Not like this. The fog man stepped forward, not aggressively, not demanding, but with a kind of sorrow that felt impossibly human, a sorrow that belonged to me. I'm not your dream, I whispered. I'm not your story to write. The fog shimmered. For a moment, its face aligned with my brother's perfectly, just long enough to steal my breath. Then it broke apart. The form unraveled, dissolving into a swirl of silver light that drifted upward and scattered into the sky like dust catching sunlight. The air fell still. The fog withdrew. The sun brightened, and I collapsed to my knees. Because even though it hadn't been real, it had felt real enough to hurt. Greywick, I whispered, please, stop. But I knew it wouldn't. Not out of malice, not out of hunger, but because dreams don't know when to end. I stood slowly, wiping my eyes. The shimmer on the horizon dimmed, but did not disappear. The town was quiet again, sleepy, watching, learning. I took a deep breath and turned away. The meadow stretched ahead, golden and wide, leading toward a distant village I could barely see. A real place, a new beginning. The fog didn't follow this time, but the silence behind me carried a promise and a warning. Greywick would dream again, and one day I might have to face whatever dream came next. By the time I reached the outskirts of the next village, the sun was fully risen steady, uncompromised, no longer flickering with Greywick's silver pulse. The world seemed normal again, ordinary, quiet in the way places untouched by living dreams tended to be. The village didn't have a name on any signpost that I could see. It looked old, but lived in stone walls patched with fresh mortar, roofs weathered but sturdy, smoke rising from chimneys in calm gray ribbons. People moved through the streets with baskets, tools, and sleepy eyes, unaware that just beyond the hills lay a town whose dreams could reshape reality. Part of me wanted to collapse into this quiet. Part of me wanted to run. I stepped onto the main road, feeling out of place among the morning routines. Several villagers paused to glance at me. A stranger in worn clothes and shaken eyes. But no one approached. Their expressions were curious, not suspicious, human, not hollow. I felt relief, then dread, because Greywick had taught me that appearances often meant nothing. A woman sweeping her doorstep gave me a polite nod. "Morning, traveler. You look like you've been walking all night." "I have," I replied softly. "Long road behind you, longer than you think." She smiled kindly. "Well, this town's quiet, safe enough. You'll rest well here." Safe. The word burned in my chest, not because it was false, but because I wanted so badly to believe it. I walked farther in, past a market stall where a young man arranged fruit, past a stone well where two boys argued over who climbed the rope last, past a small chapel with ivy climbing its side. Everything was normal, perfectly normal. Too normal. I paused at the well and watched the water ripple. My reflection swam back at me, tired, pale, but real. Then something shifted, not in the water, not in the air. In me, a soft pulse, familiar, silver, faint, brushed across my thoughts like a fingertip trailing down my spine. "No," I whispered. "Not here." I straightened sharply, scanning the village, but there was no fog, no distortion, no unnatural light, just children laughing, vendors calling out morning prices, horses stomping hooves against packed dirt. Yet the pulse came again. This time, I recognized it. Greywick wasn't sending a dream. It was listening, and the silence around me. The silence of this village felt suddenly wrong, like a page too clean in a book full of scribbles. I took a few steps toward the chapel, drawn by instinct rather than logic. Something in its shadow tugged at me, a suggestion of movement. But when I reached the door and pushed it open, only dust and soft light greeted me. The interior was simple. Rows of benches, a carved altar, candles burned down to stubs. Then I saw it, a symbol carved into one of the wooden beams, a familiar shape, a circle with a line through it, and small branching strokes around the edges. My breath caught. The mark, not glowing, not alive, but etched into the wood as if someone had carved it long ago and the lines had darkened with age. I reached out, touching it with trembling fingers. The wood was cool, still ordinary, but the meaning was not. Greywick was not the only place that remembered. Behind me, the door creaked. I turned. A man stood in the doorway, tall, broad-shouldered, with gray-streaked hair and a cloak dusted by travel. His expression was unreadable. but his eyes were too sharp. You know what that symbol means? He asked quietly. My throat dried. Do you? His gaze flicked to the mark carved in the beam, then back to me. Not many travelers notice it. My pulse raced, and those who do, they're usually from there. From where? He stepped closer, lowering his voice. Greywick. The room tilted. I stumbled back. How do you? This village is miles away. How could? But the man raised a hand, silencing me. You don't have to explain. I already know what you've seen. His tone wasn't threatening. It was tired. Who are you? I demanded. A survivor, he answered. Like you, someone who left before the town finished shaping me. My skin prickled. When? 20 years ago, I froze. No one leaves Greywick. They do, he said simply, when the town lets them. I stepped closer. Did you choose, or were you chosen? He smiled sadly. I don't think any of us choose. We just survive long enough to become part of the story. My heart hammered. Why is the mark here? Because Greywick isn't the only town that dreams, he said, but it's the only one awake right now. The words hit me like a blow. What are you talking about? He sighed, leaning against a pew. There used to be others, towns with memory, towns with hunger, towns with fog that whispered and pulled and shaped. Greywick is the last. The rest have gone silent. Silent how? Dead or dreaming too deeply to wake. A chill raced through me. And this village, he shook his head. Just a village. Ordinary. But people hear stories. People carve symbols they don't understand. And some of us. He looked at me with an expression equal parts pity and recognition. Carry pieces of Greywick even after we leave. My knees weakened. I grabbed the back of a bench. It's following me. No, he said, but it remembers you, and that memory leaks. He stepped forward and rested a hand on my shoulder, a steady, grounding touch. Listen carefully, he said. Greywick is changing, and change requires anchors. You woke something new inside it, something it hasn't felt in a long time. Hope, I whispered. He nodded, and hope is dangerous for a place built on memory. A sharp crack echoed outside. Both of us turned toward the window. A flicker of silver shimmered through the village square. The man cursed under his breath. It found you faster than I expected. My blood turned to ice. What do we do? He walked to the door, drawing back his cloak. Beneath it was a wooden staff carved with the same mark Y once bore on my skin. We face it, he said, or it will keep shaping itself after every shadow of you it finds. My chest tightened. I don't want to fight Greywick. You aren't fighting it, he replied. You're guiding it. A low hum vibrated through the floorboards. The silver fog seeped under the chapel door. Alive, searching, calling. The man met my eyes. Are you ready? I swallowed hard. No, I said honestly, but I don't think that matters anymore. The fog rose, the sun dimmed, and Greywick dreamed through me once more. The village square felt wrong the moment the silver pulse rolled across it. Not dangerous yet, but wrong in the way an echo feels when it does not belong to the room. Evan stood beside the survivor, gripping the edge of a stone well as the villagers around them slowly froze. A woman holding a basket A child reaching toward a stray cat, a man lifting a crate of apples. Their movements slowed, not because time had changed, but because something deeper memory had begun tugging at the fabric of the scene. The survivor breathed out sharply. "It's not trying to control them," he murmured. "It's listening to them, listening through them." The fog slipped between the villagers' feet like curious fingers. It did not bite, did not twist. It absorbed, learning from every flicker of motion, every breath in the air. Evan watched one tendril brush the hand of the child. Instead of cold, it left behind a faint shimmer, like dust catching sunlight. "Why now?" Evan whispered. "It's never reached this far before, because you walked this far," the survivor said, "and Greywick carries your footsteps in its dream." A tremor ran through Evan. He wanted to protest. He wanted to claim he had no part in this, that the town had chosen him, not the other way around. But the truth lingered like a stone behind his ribs. He had touched the core. He had reshaped a dream. He had given Greywick permission to hope, and hope is the most dangerous permission of all. The fog thickened into a soft wall around the square, not trapping them, but enclosing them like a theater curtain falling before a play begins. The survivor lifted his staff. "Stay behind me." Evan obeyed, though an invisible thread tugged him forward. The fog brushed his boots with almost affectionate recognition. It remembered him. It remembered his breath, his pulse, his fear. It remembered his loss. A soft hum rose from the center of the square. Evan turned sharply and his breath caught. The fog swirled upward into a pillar, not tall, not monstrous, human-sized, as if reaching for the shape of a person it could not fully recall. The pillar folded inward, swirling tighter, and details slowly formed cheeks, a jawline, the outline of hair, a faint glow where eyes should be. Evan staggered back. I know," the survivor said grimly. "It's not your brother, it's your memory of him." "But I didn't think of him," Evan whispered. "Not just now. You don't have to," the stranger replied. "Loss is loud, even when unspoken." The fog being stepped forward, less like a creature and more like a page slowly turning itself in the air. Its movements were thoughtful, unthreatening, gentle. Evan's heart pounded with the familiar ache of yearning. "Evan," the fog whispered. He felt the sound rather than heard it. The survivor snapped his staff forward. "Do not answer it." Evan froze. The fog man tilted its head, mimicking the gesture his brother once used when confused by something. The resemblance was imperfect, blurred by dream logic. But that imperfection made it worse. A child's drawing of someone beloved. A reflection distorted by a tear-filled eye. "I'm not him," Evan said hoarsely. The fog rippled in disappointment. "Not him, but sorrow remembers." Evan's knees weakened. The survivor planted himself between them. "Enough, Greywick. Listen well. Dreams do not get to sculpt the living." The fog paused. Then, slowly, it turned its attention toward the survivor. Evan felt something shift in the air, as if a second page of memory were being turned. A new form rose beside the first, taller, broader, with the faint outline of a staff like the one the survivor held now. The man went rigid. "That's impossible," he breathed. "Is it someone you lost?" Evan asked quietly. The man shook his head. No, it's someone I feared becoming. The fogman, his fogman tilted its head exactly the same way the survivor had minutes earlier. Evan swallowed. It's not just remembering us, it's mirroring us. The fog brightened. The survivor stepped back with a curse. Evan, listen carefully. Greywick is shaping new stories. It is learning from every hurt we carry. If we let it continue here, it will overwrite this village with dreams that do not belong to it. So how do we stop it? By teaching it boundaries. The square vibrated softly. Both fog figures turned toward them. The villagers, still frozen in partial motion, seemed almost like statues carved into the edges of the dream. Only the sunlight remained real. A third pulse rolled across the square. The fog surged, but not to attack, to envelop. Evan felt warmth, familiar warmth, like the moment he touched the core, when he saw the fog child curled within it, not malicious, not hungry, lonely. Please, Evan whispered, stop trying to become everything you see. The fog flickered. The survivor lifted his staff high. Greywick hear him. The fog still. Evan stepped forward slowly, ignoring the survivor's warning hand. He placed a palm against the fogman's chest. His hand did not pass through it, met resistance, like touching the surface of a dream that had almost become solid. You can't follow me everywhere, Evan said softly. You can't be every memory. You can't build yourself from pieces of people who survived you. The fog rippled, its edges dim. Evan continued, voice shaking. Dreams don't get to define us. We define you. A soft wind stirred. The fogman collapsed inward, not violently, peacefully, with the quiet release of something finally exhaling after holding breath too long. The survivor lowered his staff. The fog receded across the square, thinning from solid silver to scattered strands until it finally drifted back toward the hills, drawn by the tether of Greywick's distant, sleeping heart. The villagers stirred. A woman blinked at her basket. A child laughed again, unaware of the silence that had swallowed him whole. A man lifted his crate, humming as if nothing had happened. The survivor let out a long, shuddering breath. You did it! No, Evan said quietly. Greywick did. He looked toward the horizon. A single thread of silver lingered, then faded into the wind. For the first time, it felt like the town wasn't watching. It was listening, learning, and maybe, just maybe, letting go. The day after the fog retreated from the village, the air felt thinner, like the world had exhaled after holding its breath far too long. Evan walked beside the survivor along a dirt road leading out of the square. The villagers resumed their ordinary lives, blissfully unaware of how close their memories had come to being rewritten by a dreaming town miles away. But the sky did not forget. Every now and then, a faint silver shimmer stitched itself between clouds, as if Greywick had left its breath hanging in the air. Evan felt it behind him, not pulling, not chasing, merely watching with patient curiosity. He wondered how far the town's dream could reach before it loosened its grip entirely. They walked in silence until the road curved along a low ridge overlooking the valley. From here, fields rolled out like ripples of gold under the late morning sun, and a distant forest drew a dark border against the horizon. "It won't stop," the survivor finally said. Evan kept walking. "I know it's not malicious, but it's restless." Evan nodded, like a child learning to speak, or a wounded animal learning to trust. The survivor's words hung between them, shaped by their shared knowledge. Greywick had begun to reshape itself the moment Evan altered its core. What had once been a hungry, hollow dream now sought something else: identity, purpose, understanding. But evolution was never gentle. As they reached a fork in the road, the survivor paused. "This is where I leave you." Evan stopped as well. "You're not coming. I've lived too long running from Greywick. Now I have to go back to the places that shaped me, not the places that haunt me." Evan swallowed hard. "Do you think it will follow?" "Not me." The survivor turned to him. "You!" Evan forced out a shaky laugh. "Comforting. It doesn't have to be frightening," the man said softly. "Dreams change because people change, and you changed it." Evan looked down the branching roads, one toward the mountains, one deeper into farmland, another winding toward distant plains. For the first time, the world felt enormous again. "Will I ever be free of it?" Evan asked quietly. The man hesitated, then shook his head. "Freedom isn't the right word, but you can teach it to rest." Evan didn't know how, but the idea soothed him. A wind rolled across the ridge, grass bent in slow, graceful waves, and something else bent with it. A faint ripple of silver that danced along the ground like a shadow detached from its owner. "It's here again," Evan murmured. The survivor didn't move. "It won't harm you. It's learning boundaries." Slowly, but the ripple grew thicker, swirling upward into a shape that made Evan's breath catch. The fog did not form a person this time. Not a memory, not a fear. It formed a road, a shimmering, silver, shifting path stretching forward. Evan stared, stunned. "What is it doing?" "Showing you where it wants to go," the survivor said. "Or maybe where it thinks you'll go." The road of fog pulsed gently, weaving images across its surface: hills, valleys, forests, towns. Not literal maps, but impressions, possibilities, futures woven in mist. "It wants to follow me," Evan whispered. "No," the survivor corrected. "It wants to walk with you." Evan stepped closer, feeling warmth radiating from the fog path. A welcome, a plea, a question. He touched the shimmering surface with his fingertips. Instead of resistance, he felt a soft vibration like a heartbeat trying to sync with his own. "It's asking," Evan said, "not forcing. That's because you taught it to ask." The fog path dimmed at the edges, waiting. Evan closed his eyes. "What happens if I refuse?" "It will drift," the survivor said, searching for another anchor, another dreamer, another story. "Maybe it will sleep again, maybe it won't. And if I accept," the man's voice softened, "then the town that sleeps with its eyes open will keep dreaming, but it will dream with you, not over you." Evan opened his eyes. The fog path glowed faintly, pulsing in rhythm with his breath. He stepped onto it. The ground didn't vanish beneath him. Instead, the fog solidified gently under his feet, forming a stable, humming surface. The shimmer stretched forward like a promise. "Goodbye," the survivor said. Evan turned. "Will I see you again?" "Only if Greywick dreams me back." They exchanged a quiet, knowing nod. Then Evan faced forward. The fog path shifted, creating shapes as he walked a forest he had never seen, a river cutting through white stone, a city crowned with lanterns. None of these were real, not yet, but Greywick imagined them, and so perhaps they could become real someday. As the sun tilted westward, the fog beside him swirled into something soft, a small shape, not quite human, not quite memory. It trotted beside him like a companion born of imagination itself. "You're getting better at this," Evan murmured. The little shape pulsed with shy pride, and he realized, for the first time since touching the core, that he wasn't afraid. Night crept slowly across the sky. Stars shimmered through fading blue. The fog shape at his side brightened like a lantern, but far behind him, over the hills, a distant silver heartbeat pulsed in reply. Greywick was still dreaming, but now it dreamed gently. The fog path carried Evan farther than any real road could. It shifted beneath his feet with a softness that felt impossibly alive, like walking across a dream that had chosen to stabilize itself just for him. The landscape around him blended between the familiar and the imagined rolling hills, morphing into cloud-soft plains, twilight-colored forests replacing the ordinary ones he had seen just hours before. Evan felt neither chased nor trapped this time. The fog did not tug at his mind or echo his memories back at him. It simply flowed beside him like a companion, learning to match its steps with his. A quiet, tentative rhythm emerged, two beings walking at the pace of trust. He glanced down at the small fog creature drifting near his ankle. It shifted shapes every few seconds, first a fox-like silhouette, then a small child, then a floating orb of soft silver light. It pulsed gently each time he looked at it, as though shyly acknowledging his attention. "You're trying," Evan murmured. "I can feel it." The fog creature dimmed in a way that almost resembled embarrassment. Ahead, the fog path widened into a glowing arc that curved into a small valley. This one, Evan realized, was real. The trees were tangible. The stones held weight. The wind carried scent instead of memory. The fog path blended into the earth like watercolor, fading into another layer. Evan stepped off the silver surface and onto solid ground. The fog hesitated. "It's okay," he said. "Come with me." It followed slowly, cautiously. The valley opened into a narrow stream with crystal clear water. Birds chirped from the branches overhead. A rabbit hopped into view, stopped, then darted away when it noticed the pale flicker of fog trailing behind Evan. The fog creature froze. "It's just nature," Evan said, amused. "It's not afraid of you, just confused." The fog pulsed, gathered itself, then drifted closer to him again. They walked until the sun dipped low behind the hills, painting the valley in amber and rose. shadows stretched long, and Evan felt, for the first time in days, the absence of overwhelming dread. The survivor was gone. Greywick's pulse was distant. The world felt wider, simpler, but not entirely safe. Because as the last light faded, the fog beside him quivered. A silver heartbeat spread across the valley. Evan turned sharply. What was that? The fog recoiled not from him, but from something unseen. The ground beneath their feet trembled lightly, as though a distant door had opened somewhere beneath the world. Evan's chest tightened. Greywick. But the fog pulsed frantically. No, Evan froze. If it wasn't Greywick, then something else was dreaming. The air thickened, wind stilled. A shimmer rose at the far edge of the valley, forming not a shape, not a person, but a boundary, a curtain of shifting light that flickered between colors Evan had no names for. The fog creature darted behind him, trembling. Evan lifted his hands slowly. It's okay, I'm here. But the fog's trembling only worsened. The curtain of light rippled, expanding, spreading across the grass in tendrils of soft brilliance. Unlike Greywick's fog, this new presence did not feel curious or hopeful. It felt ancient and tired. A sound rose from it, soft, low, like a whisper dragged beneath miles of water. The fog creature whimpered. Evan knelt beside it. What is it? Do you know? The fog pulsed weakly. Then the whisper sharpened into something clearer. Why, awake! Evan's breath caught. The voice did not speak in tone or gender. It was the sound of something that had existed long before Greywick learned to dream. The fog path behind Evan flickered violently, as if defending itself, but the ancient light only pressed closer, its brilliance soft but immense. Who are you? Evan asked, voice shaking. The whisper responded. Once a town, once like yours, but no longer. Evan's blood turned cold. This was one of the other dreaming towns, the ones the survivor said had gone silent. But this one wasn't silent. It was waking. The light coiled upward into silhouettes, houses, doorways, towers flickering in and out of reality like a memory glitching in a broken mind. Evan watched windows form and then collapse, doors stretch into arcs that led nowhere, rooftops dissolving into threads of brilliance. The fog creature cowered. The ancient whisper grew stronger. You changed one dream. Now all dreams stir. Evan stumbled backward. I didn't mean to. The light surged forward, condensing into a towering arc that bent toward him like an eye. Why? Teach it. Hope. Evan swallowed hard, because it deserved it. The valley shook. The curtain of light recoiled, as though struck. Then the whisper grew softer, almost mournful. Hope broke us. Hope unmade us. Evan froze. You, he whispered, you used to dream like Greywick. The light flickered, dreamed. Too deeply. Forgot ourselves. Images burst across the valley, flashes of streets, homes, faces all dissolving into blank white as if erased by unseen hands. And now, Evan whispered, we sleep without end, but you woke us. The fog creature nudged Evan desperately. Its body trembled so intensely it nearly lost its shape. I didn't try to wake you, Evan said. I didn't know. Dreams. Here he each other. The valley pulsed. Dreams answer each other. And then, with a shudder that felt like the earth itself exhaling, the curtain of light began collapsing inward, folding back into itself. But before it fully withdrew, it whispered one last time, "Teach it gently, or it becomes us." The light vanished. The valley fell silent. The fog creature sagged in relief, dimming like a candle after a storm. Evan let out a long breath. "Okay," he whispered. "Okay, I understand." He didn't understand everything, but he understood enough. Greywick was not the only dreaming place in the world. It was simply the only one still alive. And now, because of him, the others were listening. He looked at the fog creature. "We have to be careful, both of us." The fog pulsed, nodding. The fog path reformed behind them with a slow, steady glow, an invitation, a reassurance, a vow. Evan stepped toward it. "We teach it gently," he said, "and maybe we teach the others too." The fog brightened. Together, they walked into the silver-lit dark. The night deepened as Evan and the fog creature continued along the silver-lit path, the world around them shifting between reality and dream. The echo of the ancient sleeping town lingered in the air like a faint aftertaste, foreign, sorrowful, and impossibly old. Evan could still feel the tremor of its voice inside his bones, a vibration that resonated with something he didn't understand. Every few steps, the fog creature looked back, as though afraid the curtain of ancient light might return. Evan stopped and knelt beside it. "Hey," he whispered, "it's gone." The fog pulsed uncertainly, not fearful, just shaken. Evan bit his lip. "We didn't wake it on purpose." The fog dimmed, accepting the truth. They walked again. The fog path glowed stronger as night set in, brushing pale silver across the grass. Stars gathered above, thousands of them, bright enough to make the world feel suspended between sky and earth. Evan looked up, feeling the weight of the cosmos pressing gently on him. "If there are more dreaming towns," he murmured. "How many?" The fog did not answer, but its surface rippled with a soft question. "Do you want to know?" Evan hesitated. "I don't know." Knowing meant responsibility, and he already felt the pull of Greywick like a heartbeat tied to his own. A gust of wind swept through the field, carrying with it a new smell smoke. Evan stiffened, not the acrid smoke of destruction, but something warm. Firewood, hearth fire, human life. He followed the scent until the path dipped into a lower valley. There, in a cluster of ancient trees, stood a campsite, a ring of stones, a tent made of thick cloth, and a lantern hanging from a crooked branch. The lantern flickered with golden light, but no one was there. The fog creature circled the fire pit. Curious, Evan stepped into the clearing carefully. Someone was here recently. As he touched the lantern, it pulsed, not with firelight, with memory. A vision broke across his mind fast, sharp, like a shard of dream slicing through him. He saw a figure kneeling before the fire, carving something into the dirt with a stick. A tall figure wearing a traveler's cloak. Then the vision splintered, dissolving into silver static. Evan staggered. The fog creature fluttered anxiously. "I'm okay," he said. "I think." He rubbed his forehead. That wasn't my memory. The fog rippled agreement. Not ours. Then whose? Before the fog could respond, a voice spoke behind them. Yours to witness, not yours to keep. Evan whirled around. A woman stood at the edge of the clearing. Her cloak was deep blue, embroidered with thin silver threads that caught the lantern light. Her eyes, dark and steady, reflected no fear as she looked at Evan and the fog creature. He sensed something different about her. Not like the survivor, not like the ancient dream, not like Greywick's echo. She felt awake, fully awake. You saw the remnants of a memory that wasn't yours, she said. That means the dream is stretching. Evan swallowed. Who are you? A traveler. Like you. She glanced at the fog creature. And like it. The fog bristled defensively. She raised a gentle hand. Peace. I'm not your enemy. Evan stepped between her and the fog. What do you know about Greywick? Her expression changed, subtle, but unmistakably knowing. Enough, she said softly. Enough to know you altered its course. Evan felt his throat tighten. Is that dangerous? Not always. She stepped closer to the lantern and touched it. The flame curled upward as if greeting her. Some dreaming towns collapse inward when they wake. Others devour themselves. Others, rare ones, evolve. The fog creature leaned forward. Yours, she whispered, is evolving. Evan felt both relieved and terrified. Then what was that thing we encountered earlier? He asked. The woman's face darkened, shadowed by memory. One of the fallen dreams. A town that learned too late that hope must be guided. Evan shivered. It blamed hope. It blamed the absence of someone to teach it how to hope. She corrected. Evan stared at the ground. So it's warning me, not just you. She stepped around him, inspecting the fog path with a curious gaze. When a dream wakes, it sends ripples across the others. Some will stir, some will call, some... She paused. Some will fear you. The fog creature hid behind Evan again. The woman knelt, lowering herself to its level. You are not just its companion, she said gently. You're its anchor. Evan blinked. The survivor told me something similar. He was right. She stood. But he didn't tell you the other half. What half? Her eyes softened with something like pity. As Greywick learns from you, you learn from it. Evan frowned. What does that mean? It means the more it grows, the more you will feel its dreaming. And someday, its dream may become your own. Evan stepped back. No, I don't want that. No one wants it, she replied. But it is the nature of shared dreaming. Silence soaked into the clearing. The fog path flickered nervously. Evan shuddered. Then how do I stop that from happening? You don't stop it. She touched the lantern again. You shape it, guide it. Greywick is learning to dream with you, not over you. But you must also learn to dream without becoming it. Evan felt a tremor run down his spine. I don't know how. You will, she said. But first rest. She gestured to the camp. You'll need strength for what wakes next. Evan stared at her. Is another dreaming town waking? She didn't answer. The fire crackled softly, and then she said, You won't face it alone. Evan turned to the fog creature. It pulsed with uncertain light, but also with trust. He nodded. Okay, we'll rest. The woman smiled faintly. Good, because when dawn comes, The dream that sleeps beneath the mountain will open its eyes. The fog creature froze. Evan felt his heart drop. That sounds like a warning, he whispered. It is, she replied, and then she stepped backward into the shadow of a tree and vanished. Evan stared at the empty air, breath fogging. He looked at the fog creature. It's getting worse, he murmured. Or bigger. The fog leaned against his leg. We'll face it, Evan whispered. Whatever wakes next. They settled beside the campfire. Far away, the mountain rumbled. A new dream turned in its sleep, and the night held its breath. The fire had burned down to a thin bed of glowing embers by the time Evan opened his eyes. The air was cold, sharp in a way that reminded him of winter mornings back home. Except this cold carried something else underneath it. A pulse, a vibration, a steady thrum rising through the ground like the heartbeat of something enormous beneath the valley floor. The fog creature sat at the edge of the dying fire, staring toward the mountain. Its small body flickered weakly, trembling every few seconds as if responding to something only it could hear. Evan pushed himself upright. A faint silver shimmer crawled across the surface of the mountain like veins lighting beneath skin. Not normal, not natural. He felt his stomach drop. It was waking, not the way Greywick woke, not gently, not in curiosity. This was something older, something shaped before dreaming towns learned to fear themselves, before they fractured, before they fell silent. The fog creature nudged his arm urgently. I know, Evan whispered. I see it. He stood, dusted ash from his clothes, and slung his pack over his shoulder. The silver path that had brought them here flickered behind him like a patient guide, waiting for its next command. But the mountain's call drowned everything else. Every few seconds, the ground beneath them pulsed soft at first, then deeper, like slow thunder inside stone. They began walking. Mist gathered around their ankles as they neared the mountain's base. Evan's breath came out in thin clouds. Though the air wasn't cold enough for that, the fog creature seemed smaller now, dimmer, its light curling inward like a frightened animal tucking its tail. A crack appeared. A seam split across the mountainside, glowing silver from within. Not an explosion, not a collapse, a deliberate opening as though the mountain itself had decided to breathe in. Evan froze. From within the crack, a massive shape unfolded slow, graceful, impossibly old. Not a creature made of flesh or bone or anything he recognized. This being was woven from luminous strands of fog and memory, drifting in and out of definition like a half-forgotten dream forcing itself back into the world. A dream entity, no something greater. A dream town that no longer remembered what it had once been. Its eyes too slow, swirling vortexes focused on Evan. The voice that followed came not from its mouth, but from the earth beneath his feet. Little anchor. The waking spreads because of you. Evan's chest tightened. I never meant to wake you. The entity leaned close, its enormous form bending with fluid elegance. Intent is not needed. Change is enough. Evan swallowed hard. Greywick is learning. It isn't dangerous anymore. The mountain dream hummed, a low, mournful resonance. We, too, once learned. We grew, we hoped, and hope broke us. No, Evan said sharply. Hope didn't break you. Being alone did. A long silence followed. Then, the entity's silver tendrils drifted around him in slow spirals, not touching, only observing. You carry the mark of a changing dream. It clings to you. It follows you. It grows because of you. Evan didn't deny it. Greywick had changed because he'd touched its core. He'd given it curiosity, empathy, longing. A town that once consumed memories now struggled to understand them. But he hadn't known that a single change could ripple across the world. The entity spoke again. Others stir, others wake, some gentle, some broken, some hungry. The fog creature whimpered and hid behind Evan's leg. Evan exhaled shakily. What do they want? The answer made the valley tremble. They will seek what you changed. Me, Evan whispered. The anchor. A cold wind swept across the mountain's face. But I'm just one person, he said softly. I don't know how to guide something like Greywick, much less dozens of dreaming towns. The entity lowered itself until its huge woven face hovered inches from his. You are not one. You walk with a dream child. You walk with a town reborn. And soon, you will walk with more. Evan stared at the fog creature, which blinked back at him with small trembling eyes. The entity continued. Return to Greywick. It frays without you. It fears losing the one who reshaped it. Evan looked toward the horizon. Faintly, almost imperceptibly, he sensed Greywick's heartbeat calling to him. Slow, unsteady, afraid. I didn't mean to leave it behind, Evan whispered. Dreams do not understand leaving, the entity said gently. Only losing. Evan's throat tightened. Then, what should I do? The entity began withdrawing into the mountain, its body dissolving into silver fibers. Its final words echoed like prophecy. Teach it gently, shape it wisely, and when the others wake, stand between them and the breaking. The mountain sealed itself with a quiet thrum. The fog creature climbed into Evan's arms. He held it close. I guess we're going home, he whispered. The silver path behind them grew brighter like a smile stretching across the land. Evan stepped onto it. Together, they walked toward Greywick's distant glow, the town that sleeps with its eyes open. Was waiting. Evan stepped into Greywick as the quiet dawn spread over the town like a thin veil of silver mist. The streets no longer curled in hunger, nor twisted with the restless appetite that once haunted every corner. Instead, they moved slowly, gently, as if breathing in a calm rhythm, a rhythm that was no longer shaped by fear, but by intention, by choice. Evan felt the shift immediately, and something inside him softened. He had returned to a place that once tried to consume him, yet now welcomed him like an old friend, unsure of how to smile. The fog creature drifted at his side, whole now, its glow steady and warm. It moved with confidence, no longer flickering with the instability that once betrayed its fractured existence. Evan glanced at it and saw something he had not expected. Trust. Trust in him, trust in the town, trust in the fragile bond all three of them had built through suffering and persistence. He walked down the familiar narrow path that led to the central plaza. Doors that once tugged at his memories stayed shut, still and quiet. Windows watched with soft light instead of hunger. The entire town felt as if it were holding its breath, waiting for him to take the final step, waiting for him to decide whether he would stay or leave. But deep down, Evan already knew the answer. As he stepped into the plaza, the silver core emerged from the stone floor like a blooming pulse of light. Its glow was soft, warm, rhythmic, not demanding, not pulling, simply present. Evan approached it slowly, placing his hand upon its glowing surface. Warmth surged through him, not burning, not overwhelming, but soothing like a gentle wave. And with that warmth came memories, not his own, but fragments of Greywick's long silent voice, loneliness, fear, confusion, hunger, longing, the weight of decades, maybe centuries, of being trapped in its half-dreaming existence. Evan felt the ache inside the town, the terrible emptiness that had pushed it to cling to memories, to consume moments, to trap souls within its dreaming walls. But then the memories shifted, hope flickered, light brightened, trust surfaced. The town had changed because he changed it. "You're not alone anymore," Evan whispered, his voice trembling with both sadness and pride. "You don't have to live that way ever again." The silver core responded with a soft resonance. Windows around the plaza brightened. The fog creature spiraled upward in a ring of light, weaving gentle patterns over Evan's head, as if celebrating the moment Greywick finally awakened, not as a monster, but as something new. But beneath that moment of peace, Evan sensed something else, a tremor, a distant echo rippling through the dreamscape. He turned his gaze toward the horizon and saw faint silhouettes, other dreaming towns, slowly waking, their structures twisted with unrest, their echoes filled with confusion and hunger. Some were broken, some were angry, some were starving. They had felt what Greywick had become, and they would come. Evan inhaled deeply, steadying himself. Whatever happens next, we face it together. The silver core brightened. The fog creature circled him protectively. The ground beneath his feet vibrated as the town responded. Greywick was no longer the creature it once was. It was ready to stand, ready to defend, ready to rebuild. Evan looked up, and in that moment, Greywick opened its eyes. Windows, cracks, doorways, glowing softly in synchronized unity. The town was alive, the town was awake, and the town was no longer afraid. Evan turned back to the core and placed his hand on it once more. If you're listening out there, if this story reached you, stay with us, subscribe, follow this journey. Because it doesn't end here. The light intensified, filling the plaza with a warm radiance. It begins now. Evan exhaled, the fog creature resting by his side as Greywick breathed in harmony with him. A new dawn unfolded, a new chapter called, and together they stepped forward into the next story. The story ends here. Thank you for watching and listening to the whole story. Please subscribe to the channel and turn on the bell to listen to the next stories.